This week's goal is to get some siding up on that house. This was a goal last summer, but with the woodshed build, it got put on the back burner, so now it is time to get it done. So we already have a variety of different types of siding between our buildings. We have the siding we have on the woodshed part so that we can get airflow through our cut wood and it can work on drying throughout the summer so we can use it for burning in the winter. Then up top where the storage is, we have just a lapping siding, but that is not what we're going to do on this one because we do want it to lay flat on the house and make sure it's very nice and watertight. And then over there on the outhouse, we have just cutoffs for a siding on that. So this siding is going to be a bit more complicated than any other siding we've done so far. We are going to do a shiplap siding. So we are going to have to go get some trees milled, get them down to 1-inch cuts, and then we're going to square them up, get them routed, stain them up, and then they should be ready to go. So I'm down below the ridge to get some wood for the siding. Right now I'm just looking for smaller trees to do the siding because I'm not going to waste my larger trees that I can make 2x6s out of for this project. So the one right here behind me is perfect size for that. I'm going to take that one down. And then we do have one right back here that looks like it was taken down this winter because it still has the branches on there. This one here that I'm balancing the saw on, most of the branches are broken off, so this is an older down tree and it's not going to be any good. This one here is a little bit of a mess. It's kind of hung up on this birch tree. And that birch tree broke this winter and kind of landed on it, so. I'm a little nervous that the top of that birch tree is going to break off once this comes out, so it seems kind of wedged, so I think I'm going to grab the side-by-side and just put the winch cable on it and pull it over. I'm thinking with that spruce tree out of the way, I should be able to pull this apart because it's barely hanging on and I don't want this to hurt anybody by accident. Came down pretty easy, but it's right in my trail, so I'm gonna have to clean that up. Cleaning up that birch kind of filled my side-by-side, so we're going to call it for tonight. It's starting to get a little dark, so we're definitely after 11 o'clock. Should be enough to get me started, though. So we're going to be milling this stuff a little bit differently, being they're smaller logs, and I am targeting 1-inch slabs for our siding. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a flat edge on top, flip it over, and then just keep cutting at 1-inch marks until we're down to 2 inches. My sawmill can only go down to 1.5 inches at the lowest. So at the 2-inch mark, tip it up on end, cut a flat edge, flip it over, and then I'll cut it to a 2x4. So this is what we're after, 1-inch slabs. The wider the better, but I'm not taking logs that I can get 2x6s out of because I don't want to waste those boards. So we're just cutting them as wide as we can get them. We'll square them up later once we have a good pile of these, but I have a lot of milling to do. Okay, we have a few stacks to work with now. We're going to go through and sort these into 4 separate piles. We're going to aim for boards that can get squared up into 5-inch boards, and then anything that's a little bit smaller that can fit into a 4-inch, we're going to make a stack of those, and then anything smaller than that will go in its own pile. And then we're also going to pull out and put in another pile everything that has cracks in it. So we're going to end up with 4 piles. We're going to get them all sorted and see what we can use for siding. 4.
All right, this one's 4.
Put that one. This one 5.
Doesn't look like much, does it?
No, I think one of the ones that won't work yet. Well, our piles ended up being a lot smaller than I hoped. Our 5-inch ones are mostly what we want, and it's maybe a third of the boards we had here. So we're going to start with getting these loaded and get them planed. We'll see if we have to start cutting into the ones with the cracks for maybe under the deck, where it doesn't matter if they have cracks, being there won't be any water.
We have lots of planing to do, so I'm going to take the first shift. I'm basically going to get it so the planer is touching the entirety of the board and it's not skipping anymore, and then Cody will take over and kind of finish them off. This is kind of where we decided to do it. It's over here in our garden / maybe future yard space. All of the shavings, we just wanted to get it dumped here, so we figured we might as well plane it here because then you don't have to move it then. All of these boards, from like the skinniest to the fattest one, may vary about 1/8 of an inch between them all. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I already picked out the fattest one right here, but if you look at how thick this one is versus this one won't even touch for a very long time. So it's going to be a lot of passes and passes and passes before every single board is touching.
All the planing work is done. Next step is to get some squared up edges. So we're gonna go drop these off in the greenhouse where the table saw is. So I'll use the skill saw, put a straight edge on here, and then follow it to get one straight edge. and then I'll flip it around and then run all the boards down on the table saw to get the second squared up edge. The setup I'm using here to take off the bark is pretty straightforward. I have my skill saw, 10-foot straight edge. I put my straight edge about 1.5 inches off of the bark because that's how far my blade is in from the edge here. Get it clamped down, and then I'll just run my skill saw down. It should just take off the bark and get me one nice straight edge all the way down. So that's what I'm aiming to do. Just take the bark off the one edge and make it a straight. I do have just a little bit of bark showing right here, but that's perfectly fine. It'll either be on the back or the router will take it out. So the reason why I do this with the skill saw and make my straight edge instead of cutting these directly on the sawmill at the time of milling is because my sawmill blade, it can deflect up to like 1/8 of an inch, even more if I've got a really dull blade. And in some projects that's perfectly fine, but on a project like this where I want the seams to be very tight, I want them to be as straight as possible. So doing it on the sawmill just doesn't make sense in this situation. I can already tell we're going to need a whole lot more of these to be able to cover the whole house. So instead of continuing on this back stack and getting my flat edge cut, I'm just going to work in batches and do this stack start to finish so that Lori can start working on staining. And then I'll go and continue on this batch and then go get more logs, mill more, plane them, so on. And just do them in batches so that Lori has stuff to be working on while I'm working on producing all these boards. So the next step with these boards for my first batch is to make a parallel edge with the table saw. I have my fence already set at 5 inches away from my blade, so we're just going to rip them all through there. Some of these are clearly the 4-inch boards, so I'm just cutting them at 5 inches because I'm not paying attention. I'm just ripping them all through. And then the ones that don't quite cut it for the 5-inch, I'll rip them back through and make them 4-inch. That'll do it for the first batch. So the last thing I'm doing before passing these on to Lori for staining is routering in the grooves for the shiplap. Now technically I'm not doing a shiplap. A shiplap would be just a 45 angle groove in the top and in the bottom, and they would overlap. So actually what I'm doing is a Dutch cove, which would make a cove bit on the top so that any water that gets in there doesn't go and sit in the back corner of that 45. It's coved so it kind of runs it out. So that's what we're doing, just an angled cut in there. It's a 1/2 inch in and a 1/4 inch down. I'm gonna run that on the second board quick, and then we'll flip it over and do the cove. Well, that cove bit is a lot more challenging to run through this because it is taking out a lot more material, and it seems to be tearing out a bit because I don't have much of a lip here. And what happens is when this gouges out, it makes this top go all weird because this is what my guide is running on. But I am thinking if I take and do a pass with this first, where it's taking out a good chunk of the material pretty easily, then come back and do another pass with this, that should fix my problem here. But we'll see how these fit together now. Yeah, I think that'll look really nice. This is basically flush, so it's not kicked out or anything. Overlaps plenty well. So if we look at this end, this would be the top, this would be the bottom, and we sit over top of the cove so that if we did ever have like blowing rain pushing in here, it doesn't go and sit in a corner if this ends up getting cockeyed a little bit. All the water, if it got in there, should drain back out and down the face. And with that, I have 2 boards to send out to Lori to start getting stained, and I have a lot more routering to do. And then after that, I have a lot more to gather and do the process all over again.
Last year we picked up a whole bunch of white stain, specifically exterior white stain. So we are going to do the backside of all of these boards. It'll just save us a little bit of money because the color that we're doing on the front, then we don't have to get twice the amount of, we can just get enough to cover the front and the edges. So we are gonna put this white on the back of all of them first, and then once they are dry, we'll flip them over. And we're still not sure if we want to cut them, stain them in place, or if we're going to cut them, stain them, let them dry for a second, and then put them up. It's kind of, we just have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of if we want to wait a while, how well we want them to be stained, and that sort of thing. But right now we're just gonna get this back coating on. So while it's called a stain, I really do consider this a paint just because it's very opaque. It's not really translucent. So technically a stain, it's very paint-like though. It is the same stuff that we used on this sawmill decking. So we were thinking that by putting this white on first before we do any of the cutting, since we got it all for free, it's not that much of a loss if we're staining parts of the boards that end up just getting cut off later and not actually used. Whereas the stuff that we bought at the store, we don't really want to waste it by just staining parts that don't actually get used. So this stuff we don't really lose out at all, whereas the front finish we will. I went through and I got the backside of all of our siding boards coated. Now it's time to put them up on the wall. We made the decision that we are going to cut them to the size that they need to be and then put our layer of stain on them first and then actually tack them up. So it is going to be a little bit more of a slow process, but that way we can ensure that every single side and every edge of the siding is fully covered. It's not going to be as big of a deal here underneath the deck because really no water is going to get to it, but especially for the rest of our end walls, it's kind of important. So while I'm working on getting all of these boards kind of pre-cut to the size and then staining them, Cody's off and he's working on making some stickers that are going to go on the side of our house between this OSB and then our siding. Our first board is cut. I think we are going to luck out and not need to have any seams on this entire end wall down here. The door kind of splits it off perfectly where our longest board just barely fits what the sawmill can do. Now it's time to stain it. This is going to be the big reveal. Does anyone have any guess what color it's going to be? We knew what color scheme we wanted to go with for our house before we even moved. That was before we knew we were even going to do an A-frame. I'm super excited to finally be working on it. Black. Black siding to go with our black roof. The goal is to have a dark cabin in the woods that kind of blends into the background. It's not going to be as noticeable as having bright red or bright blue or green, and while those colors can be really nice, we kind of wanted it to be almost a little bit more hidden looking. There we go. I have been waiting for this for so long. So before I put this final finish on, I am gonna kind of hit it with some sandpaper. And just because we're doing all the work ourselves, there's little kind of scruffs and bits of wood that we just kind of want to knock off really quick. So I'm gonna do that, and then we will get that coat on. And you can definitely hear Cody in the background planing those last couple boards. Our first siding board is fully stained and ready to go. We do need to get those stickers up on the wall first, so we are gonna do that and then get this board up. And then we should be able to, once we get this first one up and kind of level in where we want it, we should be able to measure out a few boards at a time and kind of batch do them, so it won't take nearly as long.
So I just planed down some sticker boards that are about 1/4 inch. We're just gonna lay these up here and tack to these for the siding boards, just so we have a little bit of an air gap. The reason we're putting these stickers up here is because the house wrap doesn't let water in, but it does let moisture out. So it will get condensation on the outside of this, but on the inside of our siding. So to keep water from sitting on our siding and keep them from rotting away or anything early, we're just gonna put these in there so that any condensation that gets back there can run down. Back in. Just going right in the face?
Right in the face. If I'm doing a touch-up on all of these boards anyway, it's fine. This is an exciting time. This is an exciting time.
Oh, a little long. Just bring it up till where it sits flush with the other one, really.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Or bring it down if it needs to come out more.
Well, like, give me like a measurement, maybe.
There's no measurement.
Why don't you just tack your side in? If you think yours is good, tack it in. I can... Yeah, you got, that's the one that gets you.
That's the one.
That's the one that gets you.
That is dark.
Yeah. Okay, have it up here. We gotta make it look good. What's that? Whoa.
Do the next one too.
We're both liking how this is turning out. We still have to do this top section and then also on the other side of the door, but it's not forecasted to rain today, so we are actually going to work outside up top here. Easier for you to float it, huh? See what it looks like. Oh, I like that. That looks really nice.
Good. Center one.
It probably wasn't the best week to do exterior house siding, but at least Cody's covered in the greenhouse working on making it, and I'm covered in our covered porch right now actually putting it up, so.
Wow, but this one probably doesn't matter actually. It just goes where it goes.
Just goes where it goes, huh? A hammer?
Yeah, that I don't need.
And then try not to. Oh, you got it.
Yeah, I still need to tap it a little bit to get in there, but.
One of those types of things. Okay, it looks like it's kind of high in the middle. Is it warpy a little bit?
Yeah, it is.